Patty Fashy.
John, you're muted. John, you're muted.
John,
Can you hear me now?
no.
We can.
Okay. Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is John Luce, and I want to welcome you to the fifth session of the Career Transition Workshop. Glad to be with you. We normally hold this session live, as many of you know, but we're doing it virtually due to the COVID-19. And we also want to thank Stonebriar Community Church, who is our sponsor and our host when we have it live. Usually when we do live, it's an all day where we cover all the topics at once, but we've got it chiseled into 5 online presentations on a weekly basis. And this is session 5, where Jeff Morris will be speaking to us on networking and building relationships. So I want everybody who's on the call to please just be aware that this event is recorded, and it is currently running live on Facebook on the Career DFW Facebook page. It will be on the Career USA YouTube channel for others to view in the future. So by participating in this event, we just want you to be aware, if you post a comment in the chat box or have your microphone or camera on, you'll give consent for your comments, name, and picture to appear in the recording and when it's posted on the YouTube channel for Career USA. While you're in the meeting, if you have questions that come up for Jeff or our panel of experts, please use the chat box to enter your question. Please begin with a question mark and then just type your question. After the presentation, our panel will answer your questions so that we can leave enough time for Jeff to give the full content of his presentation. So jot those questions down and put them in the Zoom chat box. If you're on Facebook watching this broadcast, please enter your question in the comment field, and we will be monitoring that as well so that we can address your questions. Today, our agenda is the same as our previous sessions. We'll have a message of encouragement from Steve Fisher, the lead pastor of Care Ministries at Stonebriar Community Church. Steve serves as the pastor of a team that provides hope to those who are broken, discouraged, and hurting. Steve is a licensed professional counselor, as well as holding a degree from Dallas Theological Seminary. And he is a man who knows how to walk alongside people and help them when they're going through some bad times. Today's presentation will be Networking and Building Relationships, presented by Jeff Morris. And Jeff is, his working career has been as an operations manager, a general manager, and a production manager in various industries. Jeff has a BA of broadcasting from Western Kentucky University. But since early in this century, back in 2007, he took leadership of the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group, and he is also the creator and director of Career DFW, which he started in September of 2008 to assist professionals with their networking and managing their career search and placement with companies throughout the Metroplex. He also created a secondary website called Career USA in 2012 to enable people throughout the country to do the kinds of things that we are blessed to have in the DFW area. In 2012, he was also selected as one of 110 people from the US to attend a White House Forum on Job Clubs and Career Ministries conference at the White House. He was the only representative from Texas. So He is part of our professional panel, as is Rex Sowick. Rex is a human resource manager of recruitment and staffing at Jungle Aviation and Radio Services. And Rex is a trained career transition and planning coach. Rex has a BA in management from San Francisco State University. He's a certified senior human resources professional. He's co-founder of this workshop, excuse me, since April 2001 at Crossroads Bible Church in Double Oak. And with the CTW online session, the last one we had, the Career Transition Workshop, has served over 20,800 registered guests in its 19-year ministry. So we're pleased to have him. We'll also have with us Laurie Davis on our panel. Laurie has been 21 years in talent acquisition, and for the past 8 years has been working as a senior technical recruiter for Improving Enterprises, a technology and training company headquartered in Plano, Texas. She's been part of a CTW with Gail and Rex since shortly after it started back at Crossroads Church. Locke Alderson will be with us as well. And Locke is a professional recruiter and career consultant working with those in career transition. He's got over 40 years experience in the recruiting industry, both as a corporate and a contract recruiter. And so he is also a well-known speaker in the circuit around Dallas, Fort Worth, and other places, talking on LinkedIn for job seekers, and also on how to rekindle or relaunch your job search. We also have Foster Williams with us, who has been a recruiter for a long time, primarily in the telecom industry. And he is the founder of SearchFreeLink.com and the co-founder of the Career Search Network. And Foster uses that as a ministry, helping people connect and build relationships so they can land their next best opportunity. And then myself, I'm a retired call center leader from various industries, and I am no longer actively working, but have been blessed to be a member and associated with the rest of the people on this panel for over 11 years, and just thrilled to be here with you. So again, today's agenda is a message of encouragement. Then we'll have the presentation by Jeff Morris, a Q&A with the expert panel that I just reviewed with you, and then a sneak preview at next week's presentation. So here we go with Steve Fisher, who will spend a few minutes with his message of encouragement.
Hello, my name is Steve Fisher, and I'm the Care Ministries pastor of Stonebriar Community Church in Frisco, Texas. And I'm humbled and privileged to have been asked to say a few words today before the workshop begins. Preferably those are words of encouragement, perhaps of insight. I just hope they bless you and inform you and help you. What we're going to do today, I think, is talk about time. I'm going to look at time in three different areas: the past, the future, and the present. And each of these time periods have what I would call a blessing side and a shadow side. And so let's begin to look at each of these time frames and kind of pull apart what I'm talking about. So let's take a look at the past. There is a blessing when your thoughts and your emotions wander back to things that have already occurred. You can derive some lessons learned, some wisdom when you look back and you begin to kind of assess what you did, what you didn't do, and hopefully that you improve and you learn something from it. I'm a big fan of the Green Bay Packers, and I remember as a kid growing up, there was a film clip on our local TV station of Vince Lombardi and Bart Starr. And Vince and Bart were going over game film. And I thought it to be really instructive. You could see the coach talk to the quarterback and say, hey, you did good here, or, you missed the call on this one. But it was done in such a way that the quarterback learned. And I think that's not a bad habit to get into, is to kind of look back and have this honest reflection of, okay, I did this well, I didn't do this that well. And so it gives that opportunity for some learning and some discovery. The shadow side. The shadow side of living in the past is because you really can't do anything about it, can you? And there's this theory of anger. And anger grows in the space between what I desire, what I expect, and what reality is. And so anger is what we call a resolving emotion. It tries to bring up reality to what I expect. And unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. We have to take our expectations, connect them with reality, and then collectively bring them up. But if we spend too much time in the past, if we spend too much time trying to reconcile things that we can't, sometimes it's like running in quicksand, right? The harder you worry, the harder you think about what's gone in the past, you just sink deeper. And so you get stuck. And so if we spend time in the past, it's opportunistic to be an instructive time, a learning time, a growing time. But if we spend all our time back in the past, we are stuck in the past. And there's generally that anger that is associated with that, because you can't do anything about it, but we keep trying to. And that takes away from the moment. It takes away from the present. So let's look at the second unit of time. That unit of time we'll call the future. And there is a tremendous amount of blessing to be able to spend time looking in the future. That's where hope lies. That's where perhaps new motivation. Okay, I want to get to here. That means I will take extra classes. I will go to extra workshops. I'll talk to extra people. But there's a sense of hope of, this is where I'm going. This is where I can be. And many times that provides that hope and motivation to grow, to push yourself forward a little bit. It's a blessing to be able to do that. And for those who are Christians, it is really, again, the blessing of our Savior, that we are not confined to the mistakes or the sins of the past, that our Lord has taken those sins upon us, and we can have a better tomorrow than yesterday or even today. That's no small feat. We aren't stuck in Groundhog's Day. We can learn and we can grow and we can move forward with hope and motivation to find a way to move forward and not be stuck. The shadow side of living in the future too much is that's where anxiety grows. Because even though we're hopeful and even though we're motivated, we don't have any control. And when we spend too much time looking forward, we become anxious. And we become anxious in a fashion that is fear-based. Generally, we don't often look in the future with an abundance of confidence, sad to say. We look with some fear, foreboding, some anxiousness. And so if you are spending a great deal of time looking in the future, what's going to happen, running scenarios out, uncertain of what it may bring, while you have a blessing in terms of identifying some motivating goals to achieve, but if you spend too much time back there, most often you just are reduced to a bundle of anxieties and a bundle of fear, and that's a very paralyzing set of emotions. So now let's move to the present, the blessing side of the present. That's how we can experience life. It's how we are able to feel with some degree of immediate gratification, friendships and loved ones and relationships and all of the things that go into our day-to-day that make life worthwhile. Eating a good cheeseburger, taking a walk, observing a beautiful painting, a piece of art, or listening to a tremendous piece of music, or maybe talking to a dear friend. All of the things that are present and current that I believe our God gives us so that we may be engaged in this life. So living in this present moment has the great blessing of being engaged in life and being able to receive the real-time blessings of a real and present God. The shadow side, yeah, there is a shadow side, I think, because sometimes when we're in the present, we are absent, meaning the time goes by, but we are absent. We are just not present in day-to-day life. And therefore, for lack of a better word, we're wasting that time. That a day goes by, a week goes by, a month goes by, 3 months go by, a year goes by, and we've not engaged in anything. So the danger is of staying focused, of being in the present, is that you may be just so present that you're absent. You're not thinking about, okay, where am I going? You're not learning from where I've been. And really the opposite occurs of the great blessing that we have been given. For those who are believers in Christ, one of the great blessings of being present and engaged in your life is this is how we get to experience the third person of the Trinity, the Holy Spirit. For the great counselor, the great convictor, the great comforter, our scriptures say has been indwelt in us. And therefore we have the constant opportunity to listen to lean into a God that loves us, that cares about us, that never lets us alone. And so I pray that gives you great comfort. So each day brings us the opportunity to spend time in these three areas. When we're in the past, the question really is, and we'll spend time through a day in various pieces, parts of that time. And again, each have their blessings and each have their shadow side. And so we're asking you to be aware of that. Where are you? Where do you spend most of your time? And I think a distribution of all three of those is really important. So if you're spending time in the past, that has the opportunity to be full of worry and anger and trying to change things that simply cannot change. That's the shadow side. The blessing side is it's an opportunity to grow and learn, where you gain wisdom from. Most of life is not a cognitive ascent, it's iterative, it's trial and error, we learn. And so if you're not attending to that, I think you lose some opportunities for some wonderful life lessons, professional lessons. The second place we talked about is the future. The shadow side of the future is that you can become so overwhelmed with anxiety and uncertainty, and fear becomes the only place that you draw any of your thoughts from or your energy from. And that fear and that anxiety just locks you up. But the blessing side of looking in the future, that's where hope comes in, that we can have a better tomorrow than yesterday. That's where the opportunity to become motivated, to push yourself, to grow, to use the gifting that God has given you. And so again, the downside, the shadow side, is fear and anger. The upside is hope and motivation. And finally, the present, what we call today. The shadow side is that you could be absent, that you're not attentive to it, and you're wasting the moments that God has given us. And they're precious moments. The blessing of staying in today is to be present with your Holy Spirit, to seek the counsel, to hear the conviction, to provide the comfort. And so you're engaged. And that's my deep hope. After listening to these few words, that you do take a little time to take an inventory. Where am I spending the majority of my time? And if I'm spending it there, am I looking at the shadow side of it? Or am I giving the opportunity for a blessing to occur? And so I often say this, that life is hard. Not an original statement. But it's always harder when you go through it alone. And that's what I remind you. That if you have a faith, our scripture says a cord of three is the strongest. That you've got the Trinity, God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. You have yourself. And one of the wonderful things I love about these networking opportunities, about what you are going to hear, what you're going to listen through, is that you're not alone. We have other people. So that cord of three is your own capacities, your own gifting, the power of the sovereign God and one another. And it's that cord that is the strongest, no matter what you're going through. I believe that if you hold with that cord of three, you're going to be fine. And the good people of this workshop, they are indeed good people and are here to help you, to serve you. And I pray that you take advantage of that. So again, a great privilege to just take a few moments and perhaps give you that different perspective of time in the three areas of time: our past, our future, and our present. And I pray that you are bringing the right focus, the right distribution of time, so that your blessings are abundant. And then you're able to share them with others. Wouldn't that be great? So again, I appreciate the opportunity to take a few minutes. I know you're going to have an incredible experience. And again, if there's anything we can do at Stonebriar Community Church, let us know. So see you soon. Bye.
Okay, well, we're thankful to Steve for his message of encouragement. Steve has been very busy. He's taking some time to create some new encouragement messages for us, which we'll have in the future, hopefully by our next meeting, or at least at our next session. We will, if we're unable to meet in person in 2021, end of February, beginning of March, we should be scheduling our next career transition workshop. And if we will do it this way if we're unable to meet in person. But again, I'd like to thank and pay respects to this whole group of people you're looking at right now who make up the team that bless us with their experience, their expertise, in helping us in our search for employment. Rex Sowett, Gail Houston, who has been 11 years with Intuit as a senior recruiter. She's also worked for EDS and other major corporations and had a long career in the recruiting function. Locke Alderson, who I mentioned earlier. Locke has joined us. Locke has over 40 years of experience as a recruiter. Gail Bridgman, who is unable to join us today, who has been with Lee Hecht Harrison for over a decade and does informational presentations on interviewing, on other aspects of this job search journey. Lori Davis, who is with us today. As I explained earlier, Lori is over 21 years in the recruiting field. Foster Williams, who most of you know, I talked about him a little earlier, myself and Jeff Morris, who is our host and presenter today. You've also seen Steve Fisher, and we've mentioned him, But along with Steve at Stonebriar supporting us with a lot of work that never gets seen and rarely gets acknowledged, are two people on staff at Stonebriar, Karen Hawkins, who's an operations lead with missional living at Stonebriar Community Church, and Jean Allen, who is a lead administrator with missional living at Stonebriar. And they do a lot of work to support us, to get things done, to get the word out, to organize the panel, the information that we're able to present, etc. So I'd like to thank every one of these people. They are a blessing from God. They are actually, you just saw a panel full of what I consider angels. Now, as Jeff starts his presentation, we ask that you please, on your screen, if you're on Zoom, is to go to the speaker view. And that will give whoever's speaking, you'll see their face and you'll be able to see the PowerPoint slide next to it. And you can manage how much each of those panels take of the screen by the vertical line in between the view of the speaker and the presentation. So again, to ask a question, if you're on Zoom, we ask that you enter your question beginning with a question mark and then type out your question. You don't need to put your name because it will automatically show that it's coming from you. After the presentation, our panel will focus on answering those questions. If you're watching us on Facebook, please enter your question in the comment field. We will be monitoring the live episode on Facebook for any questions that come up so that we be sure and get them addressed. So I'm going to hand it over to Jeff Morris, who's going to talk about networking and building relationships. And so here you go, Jeff.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for having me, and thank you very much for allowing me to be part of this fabulous team and everything that we present. So what I'm going to talk about today is networking and building relationships. Just a little background history. My background is in light manufacturing and operations. I've been facilitating the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group since 2007. I started Career DFW in 2008. I was invited to go to the White House in 2012. Also in 2012, I wrote a book called What I've Learned About Your Job Search That You May Not Know. In 2012, we also created Career USA and got it up and running. And since 2016, I've been a member of the practice interview team. So what is networking? I think what we need to do is sort of start out with a little bit of a definition from the Merriam-Webster dictionary. It says that networking is an exchange of information or services among individual groups or institutions, and specifically a cultivation of productive relationships for employment or business. And I think the two words here that you really need to focus on are exchange and cultivation, because when you're networking, the object is to get to know the other person. So a couple things to remember is that when you are networking, it's not about you. You're trying to find information about the other person. And it's a two-way process. You're giving and receiving. You're receiving information. You may be giving some information, but for the most part, you're trying to find out about what the other person's doing. And this is something that takes time. You just can't start out by doing it initially. The first time you have a phone call or a networking event with somebody, that's fine, but it's how you cultivate that and how you maintain that and do it, you know, in a couple months again and 6 months again, and even when you're employed. What happens, I think, is a lot of people get employed and they stop networking with people they know until they're unemployed again and then they start networking. So I think, you know, you need to spend some time to make sure you can cultivate these relationships over time. Networking is the most effective way to land a position. It is truly the most effective way. 70 to 80% of jobs are found through networking. According to the US Bureau of Labor Statistics, it's around 70%. ABC News reports over 80%. The Alumni Association of the Harvard Business School puts the number somewhere between 65 and 85%. You need to spend time getting out and talking to people and networking. That's how you're going to get a job. So people like doing business with people they know. I know that when I was running a manufacturing facility out in Greenville, Texas, you know, the person who came to sell me floor cleaning supplies and boxes and other things, you know, it was 5 or 6 visits before I felt comfortable to give that person some of the business and see how they did, and then eventually gave them more business. But they were very good about extending and about helping and visiting and trying to be concerned. You know, people do business primarily with people they know and the people they like. You know, resume and cover letters alone are too impersonal to convince somebody to convince an employer to hire you. Job listings tend to draw hundreds, if not thousands, of people and put you in intense competition with others. So, I mean, if you see a job description that you like, go ahead and fill out the application, but how can you network into that company? Networking makes you a recommended member of a much, much smaller pool. There are a couple different ways to network. You know, first of all, it's who do you know? You know, you go to LinkedIn and you see who works at a particular company and you find out, but you should just be networking with people in general, especially people who you know in your network. There's a couple great ways to find out where to network. Reference USA, which is now called Reference Solutions. There's another database called A to Z Databases.com. Great way to find out target companies, where you should be focusing on finding possibilities. Both Reference USA and A to Z Databases, you can get those free through your public library as long as you have a library card. But what this will allow you to do is to find other companies that offer the kind of jobs that you're looking for. You use the SIC code or the NISC code, whatever the newer version of it. But by spending some upfront time investigating companies that you're interested in, and then start to focus on networking, it'll be a big, big advantage. So how do you develop a networking plan? The first thing you've got to do is you've got to find companies that you're interested in. If you're interested in a company and you find them on LinkedIn, follow that company. Very, very important. If you apply for a job at a company, follow that company on LinkedIn, because if a recruiter looks you up on LinkedIn, they can see if you're following that company. And if you're following that company, you're much more likely to get that phone call. Another place to look is Glassdoor.com for company reviews and ratings. But just remember, most people who tend to write reviews aren't very happy. So those good reviews and those bad reviews, you sort of have to take those with equal weight and try to figure out what's going on. Google's a great way to research a company. Be sure to reach out to LinkedIn.com. It really is beneficial. Hoovers.com is something you have to pay for. It's an expensive service. Your public library may offer it, but and then there's Mantra.com, another way to find contacts. Other contacts that you should definitely try to reach out to is family, friends, and professional associates. One of the things that I sort of recommend is that every 3 weeks you should put an email out to, you know, maybe one to family and friends, another one to your professional associates, letting them know, you know, thanking some people who helped you in the last few weeks. Then you say, remind people what you're looking for. And then you know, if they know any contacts, if, you know, target companies, you list those, because it can be a very effective way. It's not, don't be embarrassed that you don't have a job. 15, 20, 30 years ago, you know, if you didn't have a job, it was very embarrassing. And I think that people didn't want to be around you because they were afraid they would catch your virus. But in today's society, everybody's been unemployed. Everybody's gone through this. If they haven't, they will at some point in the future. Reach out and reach out to your family, friends, and let them know. Know who your neighbors are. You know, a lot of us live and we have alleys and we don't necessarily be pulled right into our garage and we don't get to see our neighbors. Go out front and see your neighbors out in the front yard. Plan a night out. Get everybody to pull their lawn chairs out and just sort of sit around and, chit chat one evening when the weather's nice like this. Get to know the neighbors behind you. I know of somebody who, he said he never really talked to his neighbor and happened to see him one day out taking the garbage out, and they got struck with a conversation. And the guy had a job lead. He said, oh, well, I know somebody who works at that company. So you never know who could be. Social acquaintances. Now, we're not socializing a lot right now, but before COVID, and hopefully in the next 4 to 6 months when we get back out and start to see people again, always, be social, be outgoing if you can. Be sure to check out your alumni association, an extremely, extremely valuable series of contacts that you can make. And you can do that via LinkedIn. You can find alumni in LinkedIn, or people go pull out your high school and college yearbooks and see who wrote in them, and just find those people on LinkedIn, or send them an email. Hey, I just happened to pull out my old yearbook from 1972 and I saw you wrote this nice comment, blah, blah, blah. You never know who, you're building connections here. Former coworkers, don't lose touch with people you used to work with. You worked a lot of time with those people. You spent a lot of time, in business, and hopefully finding out about who these people are. Connect with those people. Clients, vendors, same thing. Quite frankly, open up your checkbook. Not that anybody uses a checkbook anymore, but open up and see. Well, how about the gardener? I bet the gardener knows a lot of people. I bet the lady at the grocery store, the clerk at the grocery store who checks you out. Be friendly to all those people. You just never know who somebody will know. Get out, and then you've got to start networking. You've got to have a plan. Once you get this list of contacts, you've got to start networking in earnest. You want to contact those that are the easiest at the beginning, and then start, because it'll reduce your stress level of the easy contacts first. And then you start reaching out to people you maybe don't know as well, and you'll start working up to the more difficult ones. Initially, try to reach out to one person a day. As you get a little bit better, make it 2 people a day. Maybe towards a little bit later, try to reach out to 3 people a day. Have 3 networking calls a day. Contact 15 different people a week. If you do this, networking, this is where you're going to find your next opportunity. Be sure to plan your call time. Plan out that, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a phone call at 9 o'clock in the morning. I'll try to maybe do another one 11 o'clock before lunch and one in the afternoon, and try to set stuff up for the future. And if you need to, come up with a script. Write a couple scripts that tell you sort of what you're trying to say, how to say it. Put it on an index card or something so you can just sort of prop it up in front of your computer or by your phone so you can talk to people. Just remember, your message needs to be clear, concise, and focused. And if you need help getting started, try role playing with a spouse or a friend or an associate. Everybody here, you should be able to reach out to other people and find people that you can practice with, and practice what that conversation would be. Information interviewing. So you've found people to talk to. Now, what are you going to talk to them about? So when you reach out to somebody, you really want to ask for 15 to 20 minutes. And it's really important that if you say 15 to 20 minutes, stick to it. Have a timer, have your watch out, and you can always say 15 minutes in. Oh, I see we're 14 minutes in. I don't want to keep any longer. I promised I would keep it to 15 minutes. I really appreciate your time. I would love to be able to follow up with you. Can we maybe schedule something next week? But be practical and concerning for the other person's time. A lot of times they may say, oh, no, keep going. Well, I've got time. Let's keep talking. You want to never, ever, never, ever, never, 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 ever, never ask for a job when you're doing an information interview. What you're doing is you're trying to find out from that person, what do they like about their job? What do they do? What's the company culture like? You're trying to find out about them. What usually happens during the interview is they say, well, tell me a little bit about you. And then there's an opportunity for you to show, well, I'm thinking about, maybe changing careers or getting into the healthcare field or getting into manufacturing. I just wanted to get some more information to see if this is something I'd be like to do. Be very, very respectful of the time. I sort of talked a little bit about that. Always at the end of a conversation, always ask, who else do you recommend I talk to? Get another lead. Get two names if you can, because then you've got two more people that you can have an information interview. And you can ask that first person, hey, can I use your name? Can I use your name when I call Mary? Thank you for the recommendation. So that's a great way to do it. I remember I took a job. I was living in Louisville, Kentucky, and I was trying to find a job in Rochester, New York. And I can trace it back to my 7th connection, where I had this little map where the first person talked to the second person. I kept asking for referrals, and it was the 6th person who told me about the 7th person, and that's who I ultimately got a job with. So, ask. It can't hurt. Be sure to send a thank you note via email. If you can send a personal note and send it via US mail, that's always better. Another recommendation sometimes is, and I've heard this, because everybody who's working now is working from home, take a picture of your thank you note and attach it to the email you sent. That's one other step and something maybe you can do. And just remember, you're asking for advice and information. You're not asking for a job. So with your secondary contacts, you want to make sure that you concentrate contacts from target companies, okay? Don't let yourself just be talking to friends in college or whatever. Try to focus your next round of contacts on gaining information into different companies. And you want to concentrate on these. The first week or two, you're just trying to figure out how to do this. But then the 3rd, 4th week, you really want to try to focus in. These secondary contacts hopefully will form the bridge to decision makers and be able to talk, be able to get you who you're trying to talk to. And this is really the heart of the hidden job market, where, I've talked with people out of my Friday group who've told me, yeah, one day they had a networking lunch with somebody, and the lunch really sort of turned a little weird, and he started asking me a lot of questions. And at the end of the conversation, he says, I think we need to hire you. And like 2 weeks later, they posted the job. He said, now I'm going to post. He called the guy. I posted the job. Be sure you apply. And as soon as you apply, they took the posting down, and he was working a couple weeks later. So you never know where a conversation or something's going to be going. So when developing your network, remember your contacts are busy. The time you spend with them should be spent wisely. They'll be more receptive to talk with you if they know that you're organized and prepared. So, have a list of questions. Be ready to ask the kinds of thoughtful insights that you would ask in an interview. Be organized and prepared, and no long-winded sales presentations. You're not trying to sell them anything. You're trying to gather information and maybe get another name and a contact. You need to develop a tracking system. You have to have some way to keep track of what it is you're doing. Using ACT or Outlook or Excel, there's several templates that you can download on the internet, but you need to keep track of your contacts, when you contacted them, when you need to contact them again, what you talked about. You need to keep track of these things and keep following up and looking at that. You've got to have some way to keep track of what it is you're doing. You want to make sure that it contains basic information, pertinent data, addresses, phone numbers. For secondary contacts, you want to know who the first contact was. So when you do make contact with a secondary contact, you can even go back to that first contact and say, hey, just want to let you know I had a nice conversation with Joe. It was really nice. So I really appreciate the fact that, you passed that along. So, like I said, there's multiple templates that you can download, but you've got to have some way to keep track of this, because it's going to become extensive. If you're making, 10 to 15 contacts a week with people, keeping track of this will be very, very difficult. Remember, looking for a job is hard work. It is very hard work. It is time consuming. I think most people would prefer to be working full time than to be looking for a job. This isn't fun. It's not exciting. It's hard, and you're reaching out of your comfort level by having to network. Try to schedule your calendar a week or two in advance. Have conversations by Thursday. Try to have conversations lined up for the next week so you're not sweating. Well, what am I going to do today? You already have some things lined up for the following week. Try to lead a balanced life. Get out and exercise. I know every morning I am out walking the neighborhood at 7:30 in the morning. I'm walking for an hour every morning. It's just what I need to do. It just sort of gets me going for the day. Whatever it is, going to the gym, working out, going to church, following services, whatever it is that helps sort of get your life back in balance, you need to do that. Spend time with your family, spend time with your friends, whatever you can do, you want to do that. And you've got to maintain a positive attitude. This is tough. There are a lot of people unemployed. I mean, we're talking, 800,000 people have been unemployed. New people are filing for unemployment every week the last several weeks. Things will get better, and we're starting to hear people are landing. I mean, I know in my North Dallas focus group last week, I announced 6 different landings of people. I know the South Lake focus group is announcing landings every week, and I know Frisco Connect is doing the same thing. So it is happening. This is the time to be looking for a job right now. So October, November, December, companies are hiring now or planning to hire now to start people January 1 if they don't try to get them on board now. I think a lot of companies laid people off this summer, not knowing what to do, and now they're figuring out, all right, here's who we really need. Let's go find those people. In fact, I heard a person who got laid off Monday. He got laid off at American Airlines like 5 months ago, and they've reached back out to him about his old job, about bringing him back in. He says, well, I don't know if I can take it because of the package I took. They said, don't worry about it. Just we think we need you. So, just keep your options open, maintain a positive attitude. The jobs are going to come back. Normally I talk about business cards and name tags next. I would hope that everybody in your house knows who you are. If you're still wearing a name tag when you go to sleep at night, I'm a little worried, but I know nobody in my house wants any more business cards. I keep throwing them away every time I give them to them as I pass down the hallway. So, I'll skip this section, and next time we get together in January, February, I'll talk about name cards and business cards, name tags and business cards. One of the things you can do right now is volunteer. It helps grow your network. Now, who can I volunteer? I don't really want to be seeing a lot of people right now. I don't want to be standing next to people at the Texas Food Bank or building a house right now. But there are still organizations that need your help. They need your expertise. Who can you call up and who can you volunteer if you're a project manager? Do you have some kind of project? I'd love to be able to help you all out, over the next few months. What can I do to help you? It's something that you can then talk about when you're interviewed. It's good for morale, and it's also good when somebody says, so what have you been doing lately? So, find something, volunteer someplace. It'll make you feel good about yourself. All right, I want to talk a little bit about networking groups. There's a couple different kinds of networking groups. There's career networking groups, there's professional organizations, and then there's business, civic, and alumni organizations. All 3 are very valuable, and I think you need to spend a little time on each one, and we're going to talk about each one. So number 1, career networking groups. Most of the people in career networking groups are unemployed. Hopefully I have all the career networking groups loaded on the careerdfw.org calendar. If it's not on there, if you know of a networking group that's meeting, please let me know so I can update the calendar so we can let people know. Another place you can find networking groups is on the careersearchnetwork.org website. In the beginning, I always recommend you go to as many of these groups as you can. The first couple of weeks, spend all day going, day, afternoon, evening, go to all these different groups, find the groups you like. But then after you've done that, pick the 2 or 3 groups you really like and concentrate on going to those every week. Because remember, these are unemployed people. You may get great contacts and networks there, but these people are unemployed. So this is what the calendar looks like on DFW. This is the webinar, all the groups that are currently meeting webinar wise. So there is webinars going on all the time. Find some of these groups, go to some of these groups. You can learn some valuable information. All right, next I want to talk about professional organizations. Most of these people are employed. I would say 60 to 80% of the people who go to professional civic alumni organizations, they're employed. So these would be service groups like the Lions, the Rotary groups, Kiwanis, Knights of Columbus, Chamber of Commerce, alumni group, your alumni group. I mean, you should definitely be connected with your alumni group. Another story is that we had a gentleman in my Friday group, and he had applied for a job, and I'm not sure if it was here locally or out of town. And the recruiter called him up and said, well, I see that we're an alumni of the same school. They both went to school in South Carolina. Now, they went to school 25 years apart, but that didn't make any difference. Just the fact that they were both alumni together, that was a common bond and a common thread they had. So immediately it was a connection, and you know, they could talk about that a little bit before they got into talking about the position. So, you know, be sure to, you know, check them out. There's a lot of great things. There's also meetup.com. This is a great place to meet other people. There's LinkedIn groups that you can also network with other people. So find these groups. Also in Career DFW, there's a list of professional organizations in the DFW area. The list, if you print it out, is 18 pages long. I will tell you that today somebody went and sent me an email saying there's 2 of these groups on here I couldn't get. I think their link is broken, so I'm going to have to go update that. So if you find something that's not updated, please let me know. All right, so when you attend a networking event, now this would be when you're attending in person, you've got to know what your goal is. Your goal there is not to get a drink, or your goal is not to, you know, have dinner or listen to a speaker. Your goal is to network and see and network with other people. You want to be prepared with a good supply of business cards. You never know. You want to make sure you arrive early. You know, my motto is 5 minutes early is on time is late. So if you go to a networking group, you're going to some kind of event, be there a little bit early. Be confident. If you need to, take somebody with you, have your wingman with you so the 2 of you all can, you know, sort of work the room and sort of be there to help each other out. Be very professional. You know, reach out to other people, you know, go up to other people, listen intently, be sure to mingle. Just don't be stuck with the same 2 or 3 people. Follow up after the event, exchange business cards, you know, and be reasonable. You know, don't expect that somebody's going to give you a contact right away, but here's an opportunity for you to learn and maybe meet somebody and talk about them in the future. So, you know, the other thing about networking events, if you go to a professional organization or something, my hint here is call up the president of that organization. Let them know. Just want to let you know, I'm interested in your group. I want to come to an event, or I'd like to, you know, watch your webinar online. But I was wondering, can you maybe tell me who are the 2 or 3 really movers and shakers in this group? Who are the people that I need to be reaching out to and talking to them so that I can help them, or so that I can get to know them and find that out. And if you do that, then you have a mission when you do go to these networking events on, you know, who you want to make sure you seek out. And you can tell them, hey, the president of the organization said, you're a person I need to know around here. You know, can we talk? Can we network? So that's my presentation about networking and building relationships. You know, we'll open it up now for questions, and thank you very much.
How about I unmute myself? That'd be good. Okay, so Lori and Locke are with us. I know Foster is with us. Jeff and Rex are with us, and I'm here. So one of the questions that I saw in the chat is that if a person is very uneasy in networking and cold calling, in other words, what is the best way to overcome an introverted nature and get yourself prepared to be assertive, not aggressive, but assertive and confident? Any tips on those who have, like me, have an introverted nature?
I'm a major introvert. I mean, people find that hard to believe just what I'm doing, but when I went to the Frisco Career Transition Workshop years ago, and I've been several times over the years, I remember going out at Double Oak. I couldn't stand being with a bunch of people who I didn't know, but it was just something you sort of have to learn to do. One of the hints I once saw online, or one of the career tips of the week once I read was, if you're going to, don't go walk over to another single person in a networking event, but walk over where there's two people talking and sort of become the third, because that way you may have a little bit easier chance of breaking into the conversation and finding out a little bit about what's going on. But yeah, I'd love to hear other people's opinions.
Spend a day with Foster.
Can anybody keep up with Foster for a day?
That's
You guys, I'll sell you something that you won't buy, but it's the truth anyhow. And that's what my dad used to tell the truth. I was the biggest introvert in my high school. In my junior year of high school, I was voted the shyest person in the McGregor High School junior year class. And so I always desired to be popular and be witty in conversations and such. That was my desire. And then my father told me, who was a pastor, he says, if you do what God tells you to do, he will give you the desires of your heart. And so now, oh my God, I don't know what happened. So guys, what we really have to do, those of us that have the timidity for networking or meeting people, if we can just, now this was pre-COVID, if we would just get out and go to a networking group and allow it to happen normally, what Jeff just said is absolutely probably the best thing there. It's scary, but have you guys ever noticed that when you're afraid of something, if you throw yourself in the middle of it, you find out it's not near as scary as it is when you're sitting back thinking about it? Give yourself an opportunity to be blessed. If you're on Zoom, or I'm sorry, on the Brady Bunch on Turbo here, give yourself an opportunity. When Jeff Morris is talking, he will talk about something that tickles your spirit. Share what you have, what you know, share your experience. A Locke Alderson, a Melanie Thorpe, a Lily Kadur will respond in kind because you said something that tickled their spirits. And then it just kind of takes over, and then you realize you had a good time and the thing wasn't near as scary as you thought. And so don't let our own minds and those voices that cruise through our brains paralyze us from doing things that we need to be doing, especially when we're in job search. Okay, I'll shut up.
Well, I also think if you show up a couple minutes, I'm sorry, Rex, if you show up a couple minutes early and you're there a little bit before things, it's a smaller crowd. And you have an opportunity to sort of go, oh, so, you can ask them what's going on. If you wait and come when the event's already started, then the pressure's sort of on. So, another tip, get there a little early.
Yeah, warm up a little bit.
One of the things that Jeff had brought up, bringing a wingman or bringing a co-networker to maybe a large event, I found that to be really helpful. So if you have one or two individuals that know how to go around the room and let your wingman introduce you to maybe a contact that you'd want, that tends to break down the shyness or introverted that individual that doesn't feel real comfortable in a large group. One more thing, in this age of COVID, with so many large-scale Zoom meetings going around, you automatically see the name of the individual that's in front of you for many, many people, and that might be an introduction that you can say that, gee, I've seen Allison on this Zoom meeting. I see her last name. Maybe it's something that I can network to her with LinkedIn.
Are you finished, Rex?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
For Allison.
Foster, check the chat, please.
Okay.
Okay. The other thing is, Phil Young had a question about Glassdoor because Jeff, you talked about resources on checking out companies and whatnot, and finding people in your target company, etc. He asks, should we be more suspicious if we see a string of 3 to 5 reviews with a 5-star rating on Glassdoor? Mike, he's guessing that the company is trying to improve their overall rating by getting multiple employees to write 5-star ratings.
You know, I think it's the same thing with Yelp or Google reviews. I mean, Google reviews, or even reviews on Amazon for products. I think you have to take them with a grain of salt, and you just have to decide what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. And I think if you saw a bunch of 5-star ratings, there's a chance a company may be that deserving. But until I had a conversation with somebody who worked there, or more importantly, somebody who used to work there, that's when I would then make a decision.
Yeah. Any other input from the panel?
I know over the last 3 to 5 years, many companies are much more interested in their culture brand. And I've heard organizations ask people to give 5 stars because they've got such a terrible rating in there. Just to let people know, and I think everyone on the call knows this, there is excellence and warmth in some parts of the company. There's dysfunction and maybe contention in other parts of the company. If you have a good trusted network and a good advisor, knowing Google, Amazon, IBM, any of those companies, tap into what they think. I like what Jeff said. A lot of people are very disgruntled when they give comments on, Glassdoor, let's say.
And I would definitely, be sure to check out the best companies to work for. Like Lori's working for one of the best companies to work for in the DFW area. Check out the list in the Dallas Morning News and the Dallas Business Journal, because that's right there. They're taking a scientific view of what's going on. I mean, Lori, tell us about, what's the process there? Did you ever get interviewed, to evaluate the company?
We don't get interviewed per se, but we get surveyed. So all of the employees are surveyed, and we do this several times a year, just to it also helps the company understand, like where maybe are we falling short or what have you. But our leadership does tell us that they look at the comments, and everything is supposed to be anonymous. So but our company's really transparent. So I think, yes, the employees get an opportunity to voice how they feel about things, and that's how we get rated, and that's how we get on those lists. But the company's very active in applying to get on, onto those lists.
The Dallas Morning News also publishes yearly the best places to work in DFW, and they survey the employees of those companies. So you're getting an inside evaluation of the culture and of the conditions and the attitude of management in working with those companies. Leadership, yes. Yes,
exactly. And there's a lot of those lists, folks. There's like top 100 in Texas, best places to work, top 100. I mean, there's, I think Inc. 500 is another great list. There's a lot of lists that you could look to, to kind of find out where various companies are rated. So.
And Lori, what is your company's name?
Improving Enterprises, but improving for short. www.improving.com. I do a lot of recruiting for the technical folks, IT professionals mainly, is
What-
really my specialty.
What is their core business?
Consulting, technology consulting and training.
Okay.
So a lot of
I
custom software development and things like that, and technical training.
Okay. I asked that because Jane Ellen Graham put that in the chat, and I wanted to give you a chance to answer that for her.
Thank you for that.
Go ahead.
While we're on this topic, and thanks, Lori, for sharing that. Guys, because of the nature of what I do and Coach Andy Cook do, we get to find out the real. I'm not saying other things are not accurate, but according to our personal experience with helping people get jobs and keeping up with people and asking people to pay it forward, the nature of what companies are really doing at the where the rubber meets the road is there. I would like to encourage everybody to pay attention to many things that I'm sharing on LinkedIn about Maximize Your Job Search. There's a company called Maximize Your Job Search that is created by Coach Andy Cook, who I consider absolutely, did I say that powerful enough, one of the best coaches, by the way that we do things in the network. This network is special. We do not do just the same thing that everybody does that makes money. You cannot buy yourself a good report from the Career Search Network folks. And many of you guys have interfaced with both of us, myself and Coach Andy Cook. So we have a list of companies that we keep going at all times. I suggest that you guys connect on LinkedIn with Andy, A-N-D-I, Cook, C-O-O-K, and myself, of course. If we're not already connected, we probably are. And we will be glad to give you our first-hand information that we know of many of the companies that you guys are applying for. Yeah. Just want to kind of throw that out there. And there was a question about who's going to be on Frisco Connect next Tuesday. Guys, we're going to have Terry Sullivan that's going to be telling us all about LinkedIn. Now, I know we hear stuff about LinkedIn all the time, but I'm going to encourage you, if you're in job transition, to attend and listen to Terry Sullivan. It's very interactive. Terry's heart is in it. The spirit of what people do in this market, it always has, but in this market makes it accentuates them and brands them the strongest. If you just have somebody out there that's just trying to make money and doing the same thing everybody else is doing, then that's what you got. But if you got a Lori Davis that has been around and she has served people for years and her heart is to do so, those are the people that you want to connect with. Okay, I'm going to shut up. I had to say that.
Okay, so Erica asked, when is the Frisco group? It's on the first and third Tuesday of every month. Our next meeting is next Tuesday, the 20th, starts at 9 a.m. on Zoom. I have, Jeff mentioned a couple of things in his presentation that I'd like some expansion on from the panel. Number one is he mentioned about tracking your activity in your networking activities. What tools do you, ladies and gentlemen on the panel, propose to do that?
I don't know about the specific tool, but I do have a practice that I'm gonna borrow out of Jeff's former presentations. In that tracking tool, you know, of course, the name, how you came about that individual, what your discussion was, but was there any sort of network exchange? Was there some sort of network capital exchange? Let me tell you what I mean by that. I so respect an individual that after I either give some advice or some sort of suggestion or recommendation in their job search, if that individual says, Rex, how can I help you now? I get that maybe 1 out of 8 times.
Mm-hmm.
And when I hear, how can I help you now? That tells me that they're just not in it for advice or recommendations. They're in for it for a long haul relationship. So I tend to be a little bit more, attentive to the next time that person asks for maybe a recommendation or suggestion.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, can I dovetail on that?
Sure.
So Foster, by the way, thank you for your sweet compliment. You're very sweet. But I was just going to tell you all that another way you can help, and likely help yourselves as well, based on what Rex said, I just while we were on this call, I had a candidate that I had to let know that the hiring manager passed on his resume because he was too overqualified. And it was really a bummer because super guy, very nice. I called him and left him a message and sent him an email to tell him. Well, he called me back during the call, and I have never worked with this gentleman prior to this past week. And he said, hey, Lori, I said, hey, I'm so sorry. I said to, be the bearer of bad news, but please know that you'll be one of the first I call should I get another position like this. And he said, don't worry about it. He said, it's fine, I understand. And he said, since this is what you need and you don't need my level, can I refer someone to you? And I was like, wow. He gets declined. I'm declining him for the job. He has a great attitude, and he is now trying to help me to fill the position he did not get. Guys, it's people like that that will be remembered and stand out. Where do you think he goes on my list now for future jobs? He's on my A list. I can guarantee you that. So it really is a give and take, when like Rex said, how many times do you get asked that? And again, that doesn't happen very often where candidates will do that. But that really stands out for me.
Okay. I do know that when we were doing Frisco Connect live together in person, we had for first timers, we had a newcomers meeting where we talked about different resources and tools. And one of those is a spreadsheet that Thomas Jackson has on his website. If you look up Thomas Jackson on LinkedIn, you'll get a link to his website. And on his website, you'll have to do a little searching. He's got some spreadsheets, Excel spreadsheets, for tracking different contacts you make during your job search. And they're downloadable, they're virus-free, and they're customizable. They're in the Excel format. You can customize them, but the basic format is there, so you don't have to start from scratch. And you can track who you've contacted, who you've submitted applications to, who you've had conversations with, new contacts in your network with phone numbers and email addresses and things like that if you want to do it on your own from home. I think in the past, someone also recommended Trello.
Trello, that was Patty Bashy, if she allows me to throw her under the bus. Patty, could you tell us a little bit about that if you're still with us on this call? She must have stepped away.
Okay.
I scared her off.
All right.
What's another good one is Evernote. They have a ton of pre-built templates that I just discovered this past week. So I don't know if there's one in there that would be appropriate for tracking, but there were project management tools in there. There were a lot of pre-built templates. It's something new they're doing apparently.
And say that again, Lori. Evernote?
Evernote.
Okay.
Evernote.
Yeah. Let me give a recommendation for Patty's recommendation. Trello, I am not a very good technology guy, but Trello makes it very easy. It's color based. How you can put tasks in that, reminders in that, and it's, I think, well, the subscription that we're using is free.
Mhm.
Patty, feel free to jump in there.
Yeah, I use Trello and it's been really handy for me. There are different checklists that I can add into mine, and then you can move the cards from one stage to the next. You can have your networking contacts. Then if you applied for the job, if it's in process, what other tasks you have. It's been very helpful for me, so.
Okay. Also, Jeff talked about informational networking on building your network. I think sometime we ought to put together a specific session on just informational networking, or having an informational, what's the word I'm looking for?
Interview.
Interview, thank you. Informational interview. Anything from the panel on, I know that Locke has done some presentations on that. Any key points on informational interviewing from anyone on the panel?
We are actually the North Dallas Plano Focus Group on Friday, October 30th. Our speaker will be talking about informational interviewing. And this is Walt Glass who will be doing the presentation. He took it over last minute after Dennis O'Hagan passed away. And he was supposed to speak at our group, and so he took Dennis's presentation and put his own twist on it. So he's presented to us a couple times, but October 30th, 9:30, if you'd like to see his presentation, you can join us.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you for that, Jeff. Because I think informational interviewing is really the way to establish in-depth relationships and contacts, and you covered the basics on that. Is never ask for the job. I'd like you to asking the person, I'd like some counsel from you on your career and what you've done, because I'm interested in pursuing that, and then let the conversation go on from there.
We do have the 5-page handout that Dennis came up with and that talked about for years and years and years. It is on the Career USA website. If you go in the search box and just type in Dennis O'Hagan, I think you can just type in Dennis in the search box, and I think that just up will come a couple entries. Just look for the one that talks about information interviewing, and you can download the 5-page handout.
Okay, excellent. All right, just a moment, please, while I take a look at what's going on here. So Heidi Torres says she has to go, but would love to hear about your networking journey to connect with her. Just a moment. And Lori's posted that. Margaret, you asked what Lori's last name is. It's Davis, D-A-V-I-S.
John, I see Erica Bondi has a question for Lori.
Yeah, I saw that. So I know I mentioned that this candidate was overqualified, and Erica is asking, how do we overcome that? Do we need to leave stuff out on our resumes? And I think it depends. In this case, this particular case, this gentleman was at the architect level, and the client just came back and said, hey, I don't need someone that senior. So sometimes we don't always know until we get a couple resumes submitted to a hiring manager on what it is that they're looking for. But to your question specifically, it really just depends. I mean, I think we talked about this last week a little bit, and some of the other panel can jump in, but it really depends on what your core skill set is, or what your, core experience is, and what it is that the job is asking for. And so if you've done something, 15 years ago that is not applicable to what the job requirements, are asking for, then yes, I probably would leave it off. I mean, for example, for me, what I was doing, 25 years ago is absolutely incredibly irrelevant to anything that I would be applying for today. Would I leave that off? Absolutely. So I think it really depends. It's hard for me to say without really knowing your background and knowing what jobs it is that you're applying for. But the relevant experience is the most important. So I can talk with you offline, Erica, if you want to. I'm happy to do that. If you want to reach out to me.
Lori, I have a question. So did this candidate put in his resume against a job description you all had posted, or he just happened to send his resume in and you forwarded it on to a possible hiring manager?
I had reached out to him, Jeff, because we had a call with the hiring manager and she had just jotted down a few notes about what she was looking for. But she, she's like, hey, I'm looking for, I don't need an architect level. But when she described it, she said, I need someone who knows this product inside and out, and I need someone who's a guru. Well, what's a guru in her, in her mind? Is it an architect? Or is it strictly an administrator? And so he was more of the architect level as opposed to the admin level. And so, but I had reached out to him.
Right. Okay,
So,
I mean, I guess that's something for job seekers out there to think about, is that you shouldn't be sending resumes in for jobs unless you have a job description or unless you've had a conversation. You maybe ought to just send in a one-page bio, a high-level document saying this is what you can do. And then once you find out what they're really looking for, then you submit your resume with the details of how you can help solve their problem. And if he had known this, he probably would have never said he was at that level if he was interested in the job.
yeah.
John, can I contribute to this question?
Sure.
My organization is heavily into Bible translation. So 90% of my workforce is volunteer. I had an individual who was a director from Honeywell, a director from Hitachi, and a director from Texas Instruments. He had been a director with all of those Fortune 500 companies in purchasing and supply chain. He applies for a purchasing associate position. If he's willing to volunteer, I'm willing to call him, but I ask him, basically, why is a global director in supply chain for Honeywell applying for my purchasing associate position? To let people know, your passion is never overqualified. Your passion is never overqualified. If you can state your interest, your peak motivation, and your focused passion on a position. He had told me that, Rex, I've heard about your organization. I just wanted to see if there was a volunteer position that I can give 8 to 16 hours of my week to. I've got him interviewing tomorrow at 2:00. It's a volunteer position, but it extends his skill set to something that he wants to do. Yeah, that's it, John.
Okay, thank you.
There has been a new development in the last 2 hours. Apparently there was at TD Industries over in Dallas. There was a meeting and they decided that they needed to hire a senior vice president of marketing. So if any of you guys fit that description, or if you know someone, your buddies, your husband, your cousin, whoever it is, that might be a CMO level. CMO is Chief Marketing Officer. or a very, 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 this is probably a $200,000, maybe $250,000 position. If you know someone in marketing that is at that level, have them reach out to me. I'll be glad to help any kind of way I can. This is how this network operates in any way. And on Search for You, the job is posted. So you can go directly. You do not have to sign in to Search for You when you go. There's 100 different categories of jobs there. This job will be under executive management, along with maybe a few other jobs that some of you executive management level people might want to be privy to. The information for the actual person that is responsible for that job is listed. That is the advantage of the jobs that are posted on Search for You. Whoever's looking to hire for those jobs, put their name and information right out there for you to contact them. That's what this network is about. I think that's what sets us apart differently from some of the other things that I see. But guys, I'll be more than glad to help. Also, in about 30 minutes, 35 minutes, the Job Father Job Seeker Network Radio will be taking place. You guys can go to JOCO, J-O-C-O. You might just want to Google it up. JOCO Community Radio, and listen as we will have the gentleman that runs our supply chain and logistics and project management and business analysis focus group will be our first guest. Our second guest will be a guy named Chris Carnell, who is involved in, I guess you could say, not-for-profit leadership, making developing relationships to bring in the money for not-for-profits. Is really, really a neat guy, and he will be sharing what his observations have been in the network as well. God is blessing us to have tools like this one right here. I am involved in 2 network radio shows. This network just continues to be blessed. You guys, please tell people that are laid off about this network. Have them connect with me. I don't care. I started a big portion. It's not the whole thing, but a big portion of this network that services job seekers. COVID has helped us get up to, I would bet that we're probably approaching, if we are not over, 200,000 active job seekers just here in Dallas-Fort Worth. So I'll shut up. That was a shameless plug for us and what we do.
Okay. Okay. Jeff, on networking at careerdfw.org and careerusa.org, you showed the calendar view. Is there another, there are a couple of other views of activities going on in the DFW area that are a little less, because that calendar view gets jammed, especially on Tuesdays. What are other views where you could look at what's
the other way to look at the calendar instead of looking at it by the week view is if you 2 tabs over, if you click on agenda, it will pop up all the things in chronological order by time. And so you can browse and peruse through it the exact same way. So it makes it a lot less congested.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Locke, I haven't heard from you today, sir. You have any input?
I think our experts on the panel have already covered almost everything for networking. That's not my strongest area of expertise. I'll do LinkedIn again next week in comparison. I'm not doing it for Terry, but I'm doing it for Jeff's group on what time is it? 1 o'clock on Tuesday, Jeff?
Yes, 1 o'clock next Tuesday.
Oh,
Excellent.
Career DFW at 1 o'clock.
Yeah, and I think the importance of what Jeff shared with us is that, and there are some other activities going on. Some of you may be aware, some not. The Who You Know networking show with Foster and Trevor Houston and Mark Elder. But that's a key importance. What you know is important, but who you know and seeking out and establishing those relationships It's hard depending on your personality type, especially if you've taken the DICE profile and some of the others around. If you are an introvert, you're not an alpha type personality who goes out there and conquers the world. But it is important to seek out and build relationships, because everybody you build a relationship has their own network of relationships. And it's that 6 degrees of separation that helps you to find people that you can build a relationship with. It doesn't have to be a bosom buddy thing where you meet all the time, but those relationships, once they're established, should be maintained, because things change so quickly in our world today. Anybody got any other comments about that?
The
Just
spirit of
something
what we
that
do
I
pervades
wanted
everything.
I wanted to vector off of what Jeff said in terms of, I call it emphatic listening, active listening. We're headed, team, into a period of time where there is much more social gathering with the holidays.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to be with family or friends for Halloween, for Thanksgiving, for New Year's. I know that no one wants to think that far in advance, thinking that they're going to be out of employment. But those get-togethers are natural networking events where you can take a very, very soft, at least a warm relationship, a warm networking contact, and say, who do you work for? Are they looking, or, you know, and maybe not asking for the job, but is I've got a background in this, is your organization looking for that expertise?
Absolutely.
So start cultivating, start harvesting some of those networking opportunities for social get-togethers during the holiday.
Excellent point. Thank you so much. That's a key point. See, sometimes things are right in front of us and we don't see them. And you're absolutely right. This is a season of the year where families, hopefully to some degree, can get together, and those kind of discussions are vital in building the network. Jeff also mentioned alumni associations. He talked about your school, but many companies have alumni groups on LinkedIn or on Facebook, and you can reconnect with people that you had a good relationship with when you worked at that organization. So we're at 4:33, running a little over, so I'm going to bring us to a close. I want to remind everybody to save the chat. If there's information in that chat that was discussed, and Bill Brewer was kind enough to upload the text, the document that Jeff was talking about for informational interviewing. So when you click on the chat, a box will open up, and on the extreme right-hand side will be a little circle with 3 dots, which is sometimes hard to see depending on your screen. If you click on that circle, it will give you another pop-up that will give you the opportunity to save the chat, and that will save the chat to your machine, your desktop or laptop, as a text document. And you can save it to your desktop, and then if you want to delete it later, fine. But any links that were shared or anything else will be in there, and it'll give you a chance to recoup. So next week, our session 6 is the final session of this series of the Career Transition Workshop, and Rex Sallet will be giving a presentation on adapting your salary negotiation strategies to COVID-19. And I've heard Rex give this presentation in the past few weeks, and it is absolutely robust and astounding, and with a ton of information. So spread the word. We ask you to join us next Tuesday, the 20th, at 3 p.m. for Rex's presentation on the Career Transition Workshop. And again, this session was recorded and will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel. If you want to review it, recommend it to others so that they can take advantage of the information that was shared. So, Lily, I'm just going to answer that Foster shared it earlier. It's on the recording on YouTube, that next week at Frisco Connect, we will have a presentation on LinkedIn by who, Foster?
By Terry Sullivan himself.
Terry Sullivan. That's next Tuesday, October 20th at 9 a.m. via Zoom. So I will go ahead and just close us in a word of prayer and thank everyone for attending, and thank our panel, as always, for their expertise and their counsel and their wisdom. Heavenly Father, we ask you to bless everybody on this call, those who are seeking employment, give them discernment, give them wisdom, give them patience, give them perseverance, and let them know that you're right there with them and that they're in your care. Thank you for those on our panel of experts and for their wisdom and all the great information you've allowed them to accumulate, and for their heart to share it with others, to walk alongside people on their journey in seeking employment. We ask you to bless them for the sacrifice of their time and talent, for all that you've given us in all parts of our lives. We thank you and praise you through Jesus our Lord. Amen. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Uncle John.